All right. Well, I guess we'll start out here because we've got to go with each conference. We're going to start out with Tank Conference, the ACC. So, like I said previously, I've got 5 bold predictions for each conference and some of the teams that are in it. Now, Red did help me out with a few of these, and I'll list and I will let you guys know which ones he did help me out with as we progress into it. But yeah, we're going to start off here with the ACC. Number 5. This is a big one here to start out with. So number 5, JKS leads Cal to 8 or more wins this year. I'm very high on Cal because of JKS. I think he is an elite prospect with Cal. He's probably one of the best returning quarterbacks. He had a phenomenal freshman year, and with the material that he has with him this go around, I think they're going to go places. Plus, they don't have Justin Wilcox to worry about anymore because I think that was really holding them back. So I think it is going to make a huge impact to that offense, a huge impact to that team overall, and it's going to be very, very helpful for them. So I'm very, very high on Cal. Plus, it's Tank Conference, and they've got a very easy schedule to manage along with it.
Well, I see you're high on the Calgorithm as Z.
Yes, very high.
Here. I don't blame you. I was going to say on the surface, it's like, okay, JKS isn't, the only thing that Cal has going for them. But to be fair, he kind of is. I don't disagree that Cal is going to win 8 games. Like you said, JKS, great season last year. And honestly, you go back and watch some of those Cal games, they were damn close a couple of times to winning a few of those games that they ended up losing. And, they made it very entertaining. I would say that, they're not going to suck. I think they're still going to make a bowl game regardless, but getting 8 wins, it's not too crazy.
Yeah, it's not. I didn't go overly ridiculous with it. It really wouldn't be all that weird to imagine Cal with a very manageable schedule and actual weapons on offense because JKS now has a weapon in Rutgers wide receiver Ian Strong. He's no KJ Duff, but he's pretty damn close to it. I think he's going to do some serious work there under that Cal offense.
I'm going to adjust this so we can get our facial reactions in here, if that's possible. Oh, nope, we can't. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're overlays, so we really can't do much about that. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. That's unfortunate. Slight oversight there, but it is what it is. All right. Moving on here to number 4. It's going to make one fan base mad, but to be honest, we've been doing a whole lot of that. Number 4, and Red did help me out with this one. This is way more of a Red take than it is of me. Number 4, Clemson tanks even harder than last year. So Clemson was a mess last season. They did manage to at least make a bowl game, but what was their final record? Like what? 7-6.
Yeah, 6-6.
Yeah, they finished 7-5, and then the bowl loss to Penn State. They ended up 7-6. Well, Red and me to an extent because they've lost a lot of their big time weapons. Think that Clemson is going to take even harder this year. Now, whether or not that ends up being the end of Dabo Swinney at Clemson is yet to be determined. But, Red, you can take this from here. What do you think?
I genuinely am just not confident in Clemson going into 26. Look, everybody was so fucking high on Cade Klubnik going into last season, and that team just laid the biggest of eggs. They're ranked 23 in the preseason coaches poll. That's their lowest preseason ranking since 2011. And right now, I hear a lot of people saying 6-6 is most likely the floor. It genuinely would not surprise me as if they get off to a bad start and they just crash out and go 5-7 and not even go bowling. And that is if they start and they lose 4 games in a row and they fire Dabo. That is nuclear football scenario bullshit there. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's totally possible, but I genuinely feel like this season for Clemson is going to be make or break. Either Dabo gets the ship righted and they get back to a 10-win season, or they crash out and go 500 or even worse.
Yeah, to me, I think the only saving grace for Clemson this year would be a pop-off season for that defensive line. Will Hill, I think he is really good. He's one of the better edge rushers in the conference. I know that for a fact. But the main thing about Clemson is that they lost so many of their offensive weapons last year. Klubnik's gone. They're replacing him with Christopher Verizon, and I saw this guy play, and he is not
Christopher
good.
Verizon. What the fuck?
Yeah, he's not good. His actual name is Christopher Vazina, but I'm not very confident in him at all.
I don't blame you. I mean, again, they were pegging Cade Klubnik as a Heisman hopeful last year. Who the fuck even is Christopher Vazini? I think it's Vazina? Vazinia?
Yeah.
It sounds like the Italian grandmother took a shit on the table on Sunday dinner. Like, that's exactly what that name sounds like. And I'm guaranteeing you right now, he plays just about as good as that.
Yeah. The only way I see Clemson having any sort of productivity on offense is a breakout year from Chris Johnson, the transfer running back that they got from SMU, because he is pretty good. But there are some serious problems on the line. They're starting a freshman on their tackle, so it's a mess.
It's bad enough when the offensive line has to replace the parts over the offseason. It's even worse when you got a guy coming in with no FBS experience on the offensive line and asking him to do the damn job. That is not going to go well the first month, at least.
We're going to find out real quick. That's the plus about this whole thing, is that we're going to find out very fast, because, of course, Clemson opens up the season in Tiger Stadium, going to Death Valley against LSU. So we're going to find out really fast whether or not any of this comes to fruition.
And if they win that game somehow, we're going to be eating a plate of fucking...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, if LSU ends up blowing that game, oh, my goodness. At that point,
they focused on
LSU has saved themselves a spot for Clown of the Week at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to our sponsor of the FBS Report, Prize Picks. Now, as they do for every single FBS Report, now we've got a lineup to make. So let's go ahead and get right on that before we continue on with the show. And the fun thing about Prize Picks is that you can wager on just about anything. You can wager on Counter-Strike if you want, League of Legends, WNBA, MLB, tennis, soccer. I'm going to put something on of course, the MLB. Originally, I was going to do something with Banana Ball, but that's no longer an option. I know.
I was going to say Banana Ball. What?
Yeah, no, it's real. I think it was Banana Ball. Yeah. I was going to do something with that, but that wasn't available by the time the show started. Believe me, I'm just as disappointed as everybody else.
Boo, not cool.
I know. Very, very unfortunate. Blame the Showtime for that. But I guess, what do you think? I guess you should just do what we usually do and put more on a few lineups here.
Yeah, I would
can't
say
do it on the same team.
Let's put more on Merrill, more on Christian Walker. I'm actually going to say let's be bold and go less on Jose Altuve if we can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Let's fuck around. Why not?
All right, that's what we'll do then. Lineup's good. All right, let's run it. So we'll give you guys an update on that. I actually won the last lineup that we did. I actually won that. The last one we did on the show. Yeah, I actually won.
Yeah, so every blind squirrel finds a nut.
It is true. Every blind squirrel does indeed find a nut. So if you want to jump in on that too and find your nut, the perfect place for that is Prize Picks. So hit up that promo code HMA, sign up today, and the best part about it is you can play a first $5 lineup and have a chance to get $150 if you win. So check out Prize Picks using the promo code HMA. Sign up today. Thank you to them for sponsoring, and of course, make sure to play responsibly.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So I guess we'll keep an eye on that as it progresses. All right, ACC number 3. And I had to put something about this in here. But number 3, Big Game James. In other words, James Franklin leads Virginia Tech to 8 or more wins this year. Now, how are we feeling about this one, Red?
That depends. Depends entirely on how all the transfers coalesce together. You got to remember something. James Franklin, he knows how to win games. He just doesn't know how to win big games, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it's impossible for Virginia Tech with all the talent they brought in after the James Franklin recruitment cycle hit. What I don't believe is that I don't know if they'll get to 8 wins for sure. I mean, They got a couple of gimmies like VMI, Old Dominion. Well, Old Dominion's not a gimme with Virginia Tech anymore, actually.
Yeah, no, that is They are not a gimme, but they do have them in
Maryland,
Blacksburg,
Boston College, and then they got some. They got Stanford, but they got a lot of toss-ups in there. That if the team's not together, it's gonna be very gross.
Well, to give you guys an idea, all right, to give you guys an idea, their first 6 games are VMI, Old Dominion, Maryland on the road, Boston College on the road, Pitt, and then Cal in Berkeley. So, yeah, no, Red is right. There are some trap games in there. That Maryland game, I know we make fun of Maryland, and I think Loxley's probably gone after this season, but this is a September Maryland that Virginia Tech is having to fight off against. So it's no gimme either.
No.
So, but the thing is that I said 8+ wins. Is it that hard to believe that Virginia Tech had wound up 8-4?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, it is. Genuine. The whole idea of rebuilding a school from scratch just strictly on transfers, which is what James Franklin had to do when he went to Virginia Tech, has only worked really, really well like one time, and that's Indiana. James Franklin's not Kurt Signetti.
I'll tell you this. I think when it comes to like James Franklin and the transfers that he brought in as compared to like what's happening with Oklahoma State and Penn State, way different scenarios right there, because Virginia Tech did keep a lot of their team together. Now, of course, they brought in quite a few transfers: Ethan Grugmeyer, Luke Reynolds as their starting tight end, Quayshawn Brown. They brought a few pieces on the line. Yeah, no, hardly, but no, I think they only got like maybe 6 guys that are starting from the transfer portal. The rest are just guys for depth. So to me, I don't know. I think they're highballing that a little bit when it comes to just James Franklin bringing in a bunch of transfers. I don't think that's the case at all. He kept a lot of that team together. My only concern with the Hokies would be their run game. Because right now, Marcellus Hawkins is set to be their starter, transferred in from Central Missouri, which, did you know anything about that? No, of course not.
That's Ohio Valley, ain't it? FCS, or is it D2?
I don't really remember. That's my point. Nobody knows what that is. But he's set to be their starting running back of the season. If they have no run game by the time they head into their second game against Old Dominion and they just look like crap, we could be looking at that prediction with a what were we thinking type of look.
I did look it up real fast. There were 27 transfers. 12 players followed Franklin from Penn State to Virginia Tech, and that is also including the 22 high school signees that Virginia Tech was able to get recruited over the offseason. So, I mean, not a fuck ton of recruits, but, you got enough star power there with Grunkenmeyer and Luke Reynolds to potentially, make an impact at Virginia Tech. Do I think they're guaranteed to get 8 wins? No, it's going to be tough, especially when you're still working with a lot of the bones from the old team.
Right. Well, I'm sticking to it. Still think Virginia Tech's got the potential to win 8-something games. And again, this is despite the fact that they have to play both Miami and SMU on the road. The rest of their schedule is favorable enough to the point that I think they can get through most of those games. But we'll see. A lot of that does depend on how far Virginia falls off, which is there is some potential with that as well. All right, coming in at number 2. And these aren't necessarily, except for number 1, these aren't necessarily ranked by like importance, but
no,
number 1 is different on that regard. But yeah, here's number 2. And this should be no surprise coming from a lot of you. This has kind of been a long time coming, but number 2, this will be Dave Doran's final year at NC State. I think NC State right now, you talk about what's been going on with CJ Bailey, which CJ Bailey is a really good player, but he's had some offseason drama over these past few months that has really kind of shifted the narrative that I have with NC State. And plus, if you know anything about the Wolfpack and what they've been doing these past few years, they've just kind of been riding the mid ground. They haven't been terrible. They've been able to at least make it to a bowl game, but they haven't gone any further. They haven't shown much sign of improvement despite bringing in talent. And I think that's going to show in this season because CJ Bailey, while as good as he is, because he is pretty good, I think he's at least one of the upper tier quarterbacks in the ACC. Again, no weapons to go along with him, and that is a problem.
I think this is a fair take. I don't think it's that bold, actually, because genuinely, NC State and Dave Doran have been kind of on frayed edges over the last couple of years. They were 5-5 at one point in the season, and they barely managed to finish 8-5, which honestly is probably why he's still there. I'm not going to look at the schedule. I'm not going to look at, statistics and blah, 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 blah. It's really straightforward. NC State has to improve this year. They have to improve this year. They got to go 9 wins, 10 wins. They don't have to make the ACC championship game, but they got to win like 9 games if they're going to show any sort of improvement. Maybe 8-4 is fine. I would think 8-4 might be fine, but if you regress at all, if you're Dave Doran, pack your bags, bro. You're getting the fuck out of there.
Well, good news is we get to talk about NC State very soon, actually, because they're one of the openers. They start week 0 in Charlottesville. It was originally a game across the country, but that changed. Now they're going to Virginia to face off against the Cavaliers.
I think they were playing in Brazil, actually.
Yeah, I think it was Brazil, but they switched that up. Remember, they changed it. They were originally going to play there.
I think that was a good idea to go to Brazil. Jesus Christ.
Hell if I know. But again, whole different conversation here if they wound up going in there and beating Virginia, because then a lot of their schedule looks favorable. But it's within possibility that Virginia Tech or NC State is heading into their bye week at 2-4. That is a significant possibility because they play Virginia on the road. They play Richmond after a bye. They should win that. Vandy in Nashville. And despite what you think about Vandy, I would have to say that Vanderbilt right now has as good of a chance of beating NC State as NC State does of beating Vandy, especially with home field advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Then they play Appalachian State. Can't look down on them. I think they should take care of business there. But then they play Louisville and Wake Forest in back-to-back weeks. And
Louisville's an oof.
Yeah, that I don't think they're winning that. But Wake Forest, 50-50 scenario there. That if that lines up being what it is, and NC State is 2-3 heading into that Wake Forest game, that could be the game that ends up deciding Dave Doran's job right there. If he doesn't win that game, they're either going to be heading into their bye week with a brand new head coach, or they're going to just go ahead and let him play through the rest of the season and then get can him after the end of the season.
Yeah, I would say if they start off like if there's a catastrophic loss somewhere in there, they would can him. But if it's like he's just not winning the games they need to win in the ACC, they'll let him ride it out. He's been there 14 years. NC State's shown incredible patience and loyalty to him. Unlike some other schools and programs that are like, we want national titles, we want a conference title. Blah, blah, blah. NC State's clearly like the Minnesota of the ACC, in which they'll put up with the coach for way too fucking long before they decide to pull the plug.
Yeah, right. Well, in terms of the Wolfpack, this in any other year, I would say this is a detriment to them, or I would say this is a positive, but this is a negative this year. They do not have Clemson on their schedule. Because if you know anything about NC State and their fans, one of the most important things to them, other than, of course, beating North Carolina and Duke, is beating Clemson. And if that were on their schedule, I feel like that would be a game that would wound up saving Dave Doran if he were able to win that game. Problem is, he doesn't have it on the schedule. They have a very easy schedule, and that does favor them to some degree. I would say their toughest opponent by far is Louisville. But that leaves a lot of space for them to just start pissing themselves against teams like Stanford or Florida State. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're going to find out real fucking fast. You're right about that. I think week 0, if they come out and they get a solid win against Virginia, I think Doran will stick around. But, I mean, that's obviously a lot to glean from week 0.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, Florida State beat Alabama week 1. And then look what happened to both of those teams as the year progressed. Speaking of which, that actually plays into my number one bold prediction for the season. And this is my boldest prediction for the ACC by far. Now, Red here, this is actually an honorable mention. I didn't list it on here, but Red did mention that he had a bold prediction that I did not put on there. And I will say this first. Red has a honorable mention prediction where he thinks Miami's going to win the ACC.
Yeah, I think they will. I genuinely don't think that that's too bold of a prediction either, because they're arguably one of the toughest teams in the ACC heading into the season. They got Darian Mensah, a massive quarterback to have back on their roster this year, can easily replace the guy that left them. They got a lot of momentum. They did get rated by the NFL draft a little bit. They lost some talent and all that bullshit. They lost the goddamn sloth. But their ACC schedule isn't too tough either. I mean, it wasn't going to be tough to begin with, but they don't have a whole lot of really hard games. They got like Notre Dame, and I can't remember what else they got. But yeah, I genuinely feel like if they go 11-1, 10-2, it's going to be an ACC title appearance easily.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that, as long as they don't piss themselves. Now, all right, here's my boldest prediction for the conference. And if you saw the FBS report where he rated the most overrated and underrated teams, then I'm very high on this one in particular. No, that's wrong guy for that. But anyway, number one boldest prediction for the ACC: Louisville beats Ole Miss week 1 and makes the ACC championship game. I am very, very high on the Louisville Cardinals. I think they've got an easy path as long as they don't shit themselves and they don't blow themselves up. I think they've got an easy path to the ACC championship game. And more importantly, I think Ole Miss is very much looking ahead of that Louisville game because they play LSU week 3. I think they're very much looking ahead. So that's my hottest take for anybody in the ACC right there. Very high on the Cardinals this season. They brought in a bunch of weapons. I think Lincoln Kienholz is going to do enough to lead them there, especially when they got 2 of the better running backs in the conference. They've got the best running back in the conference in Isaac Brown. And behind him, they've got Keyshawn Brown. They've got a 1-2 punch system. Jeff Brom has brought in a system that I think will be executed to perfection. And while I don't think they're going to go undefeated or anything, they're going to lose at least 1 or 2 games. I think they're going to beat Ole Miss. And the hardest game after that is SMU, and they got them at home. Everybody else that they play, that's, to me, I think every other game on that schedule looks heavily winnable for them. So, yeah. And the best part about that is if they find a way to piss themselves at the end of the year against Kentucky, not going to matter for the ACC championship chances. So there you go. That's my boldest take. What you think about that?
What the f*** was that?
Look, I'm not going to tell you that you're a fucking moron, but what the fuck are you smoking? What are you smoking? Ole Miss has the better overall roster than Louisville. Louisville has a lot of shit they still got to get figured out. And even if they do somehow find a way to beat Ole Miss, because Ole Miss still has a lot of fixing to do themselves, I don't think that them beating Ole Miss in week 1 is a true thermostat temperature check on if they're going to make the ACC championship. They've been close. They've made the championship game recently within the last couple of years. But I mean, dude, the fuck. I expect you to say something like, "Oh, Florida State will make a bowl game" or some shit like that. I didn't expect you to be like, "Oh, Louisville's going to beat the ACC team and make the ACC championship." What the fucking fuck, dude? That is like so out of left field.
Okay, well, again, you said if they beat Ole Miss. Well, if they beat Ole Miss, the rest of the schedule looks heavily favorable because, like I said, they play SMU, and then the toughest team after that, it's probably Georgia Tech on the road in Atlanta or Kentucky. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. They have a heavily favorable schedule. I think Ole Miss is looking ahead to that LSU game. I think they're bringing in a brand new coaching staff, and that's going to take some time to adjust. And Louisville has got a veteran coach on their system and the best running back against what could potentially be a suspect run defense. So to me, I think they've got all the potential in the world to win that game.
Louisville's offensive line has a lot of goddamn questions with it that I genuinely don't think that they're going to have solved by the time they go up against Ole Miss. Also, their defense was not very good against good teams last year.
Hold on, why do you say their line has got questions? They brought in a bunch of transfers on that line. They completely refurbished it.
Yes, you can refurbish a house, but if the paint ain't dry, you're going to get fucking wet and disgusting looking, right? You can't just plug and play a couple of offensive linemen into an offensive line and be like, okay, problem solved, let's go play Ole Miss. It takes time to get that chemistry together because you got to communicate with each other on the offensive line, be able to spot the blitzes, tell people what to go, be able to pass off defenders when you're blocking with ease. That's not something you just go and do in practice for 4 weeks in fall camp before you start the game. Anytime the offensive line needs to do a lot of rebuilding, I immediately be like, all right, they're not going to be that good for at least the first month because it takes that long. That's just, again, former offensive linemen, not to pull the fucking college football card out here, but former offensive linemen for a D3 school, you could tell why we went 0-10. I was on that offensive line. We had no goddamn chemistry because we were so injured to hell we didn't have time to develop one. So, I don't think that them going to the ACC championship game is a completely out of whack suggestion. They were a couple of, shots in the foot away from making it there, I think, last year. The, hospital pizza game against Clemson, if they won that, would have been a far different result for them, I think.
Could have been.
But to say they're going to beat Ole Miss and that's going to be the litmus test for them to make the ACC championship game,
well, that's why they're called bold predictions, Red.
Yeah, I'm bold.
Would it be bold if everybody agreed with me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if bold is enough to make my blood vessels in the brain fucking burst, then okay. Okay, Squid.
There you go. All right. Well,
I'm sorry for going off the wire on you.
That's why they're bold takes.